welcome back to another video. I just got back from a previous vacation, worked yesterday, I'm working today, and then I'm going on another vacation tomorrow. Two sides of the family, taking two separate vacations that ended up getting pretty close this year, but it is what it is, I don't mind it. But anyways, here I'm trying to do a couple more things before I leave on vacation again. Got the folder with me, behind me. I'm driving all of our wells around because we were just barely on vacation. We weren't able to check up on any of the wells while we were gone. My cousin though, he checked up on the pivots while we were gone. But now that I'm back, driving all the wells around, making sure all of them are still good. None of them are pumping off. None of them are broken, because if they're broken, then we want to fix them as soon as possible because we really need the water. But also in the far distance over here, we're getting a couple of rain clouds. There's quite a bit of chances of rain for the next couple of days. I hope we get at least some decent showers. We've been getting a couple of sprinkles here and there, but not enough to actually do anything or account anything. It's not even a tenth, just a couple of sprinkles for like 5 minutes maybe, and then that's it. But maybe if we can get a little bit more, maybe we can start not drying things up anymore, because it's dry. We need to get a little bit more moisture in the ground. But nonetheless, even with there being clouds off in the distance and us not getting any rain, the weather is cooler, so that is the plus side. The weather being cooler, really, you can tell it's been helping the peanuts, just having a little bit cooler weather. But then there's also the fact if we get too many cool days back to back or in a row, we are going to need to be putting some Abound onto the fields, and the Abound is going to help for not getting pod rot and a couple of other diseases that might pop up. But if it's going to stay in low 90s, high 80s, we might not have to put it on the fields. But if it gets too cool, we might have to. But we'll just keep an eye on it, especially with getting cooler weather so abruptly. Went from high 90s to now, well, now my truck's showing 83, so it got a lot cooler pretty quickly. So if it keeps this up, we'll just have to keep an eye on the peanuts for sure. Coming up to the first well, and it seems to be pumping off a little. Whenever it keeps fluttering like that, that usually means that it's pumping off, which at this point in the year, or at this time of the year, our water level has dropped significantly. It usually does towards the end of July. The water level usually starts dropping, but it's been worse this year than normal. So I'm just gonna squeeze this maybe just a little bit more. I guess it's sitting there like at 82. So wait for it to get back up. Let's see, let's just try maybe like 88. Somewhere around there. Hopefully it'll hold that. This is why I check up on our wells every single week, at least once a week minimum. I'll squeeze them if they need to. If not, I'll leave them alone. And then if I squeeze it a little bit now, a week later I'll come back and see what it's doing. If it's still pumping off, I'll squeeze it a little bit more. If not, every now and then you get lucky and you can try to maybe open them up a little bit, hopefully get a little bit more water out of there, but unlikely. But pretty much got to do that to every single well. Well, I guess it's not technically every single well, because not every well will be pumping off. Majority of them stay fine, but it's sad to see a lot of our water is going away, which, because of how dry everything's been, it's been rough. It's been rough out here. Normally years, pivots, they'll drop pressure, of course, that happens, but it's exceptionally bad this year. And also making sure the pivots are running. Yeah, and then there's some coyotes that they love to dig some nice deep holes. all over our fields. Those holes get annoying. Might have to fix that one of these days. That's been sitting like that now for about a year. And it hasn't fallen over yet, so far we're leaving it alone. It's not gonna fall over, it'll just stay slanted like that. Another well good. Only been like 2 or 3 so far that I've been pumping off, so not the worst. We've slowly been liking these VFD drives a little bit more over the past couple of months. In the beginning, when we first got them, we hated them. We did not like them because we would set it to the right number, right hertz. Right now it's at 55. In the beginning, we set it to whatever it was, and one little lightning storm, it would kick off and on, set it back to 60. We could never set it and keep it at a number. But now we finally got it programmed right, because apparently they weren't programmed right. We tried messing it for the longest time. Finally got it programmed right to where now, even if a lightning storm hits or we turn it off and back on, now they stay to what we set them to. And so now we've been liking them more and more. At first, every time it would kick off, it would go back to 60 hertz. Then we'd have to go back to every single well where we had one of these, turn them back down to the number that we remembered or we thought it was, and it was just a hassle of trying to remember all that. It was terrible, but so far working good. There's a couple of air bubbles coming in, but that is totally fine. That means we're pumping all the water that we can out of this well and putting it onto our fields. This well has been right at 70 for a while now, so I'm going to now try and see if I can have it open just a little bit more, and it doesn't look like it. It's right away pumping off, so I have to literally squeeze it right at 70. I was hoping I could get a little bit more water out of this well, but it looks like I'll have to keep it right there at 70. Looks like that's the sweet spot. So never mind. I was hoping I could get a little more water out of this well, but it looks like I can't. And then you might also be wondering, well, if all of your wells are just pumping off, then why don't you just put something smaller in there? That would be great if we had the time, because every section has roughly 30 wells, and with so many sections, I'll let you go and pull out every single one and put something smaller in there. I mean, if it goes out, obviously, then like if it burns out and breaks, then we put the appropriate pump and motor in there that is required for how much water there is. But just because it's pumping off, we're not going to pull out now every single well just to put the right size pump and motor in there. That would be ridiculous and insane amount of work. So no thanks. Some of these wells though, they've been pumping like that for a while now. We have in this corner here, like the field is right here, this corner of this section, there's 3 wells. Well, there's more, but 3 specific wells that have now been pumping off for quite a few years now. One of them is a 30 horse, and another one is a 25, and then the other one's a 40. They're all pumping off, and they'll have to be squeezed to way over 100, pretty much where the clock is facing straight down, so it's like 110 pounds roughly. And we would love to downsize every single one of these in this corner down to a 15 horse, maybe one of them to a 10, and the other 2 of them to a 10 and 1 to a 15. The 40 horse probably could still be a 15, but honestly we'd probably just put 3 10s in there. We would love to do that, but these are some of the biggest wells that we have, and the pump and motor have been sitting in there for years and years. So to pull it out now, where are we going to put that 40 horse? We have no other well that has that amount of water, so it would just be sitting there in the shop accumulating dust. So here it's still running, it's extremely old, probably needs to be replaced. The pump is probably worn out like crazy, but it's fine because it's pumping off anyway. Because the pump is worn out, it's not bringing up as much water, and that's fine because there isn't as much water down there. So the day it goes out, we're not hoping that it goes out because then that costs us more money, but also we don't want to pull it out because that also costs us money, because then the life that that 40 horse has is just sitting in the shop, not doing anything. So we're gonna leave it like this until it goes out. Once it goes out, then we'll replace it. If not, it's gonna sit there pumping off. Probably not good for it, but it's been doing that for like at least 5 years now. So we'll leave it like that until we need to replace it. Average well depth is average 300 feet deep. So they're not shallow wells. But I also thought about it. On the off chance that it does break, and if we're putting a 10 horse in there, we're just going to pull out all the pipe that's in there and replace it with 2-inch poly. So it's future projects. So when it does go out, 2-inch poly is going down there, because there's no need for anything bigger really than a 10 horse, and 2-inch poly can easily handle a 10 horse. So then that's easier pulling that out. 2-inch poly is easy. That takes like 30 minutes maybe per well. For pipes, it takes, I don't know, depending on how fast you are and what kind of problems you come into, anywhere from average 2 hours to pull it out. Maybe average hour and a half to pull it out, maybe another hour to put it in. I don't know, probably doesn't take too long. But yeah, I'd switch it to 2-inch poly in the future, because that's gonna make our lives easier in the future. A lot of our wells are already like this one, for example. It's still all metal on top, and we keep it that way. That part's fine. It's 4-inch. That would be nice to convert that to 2-inch, since there's 2-inch poly in the well. But I mean, it's fine. The check valve is still fine. We'll usually replace this. We'll replace the poly whenever it's necessary. We will replace everything on top whenever this check valve goes out. Once this check valve goes out, then hopefully it's not in the middle of watering season, we'll just chop it off right here by the pot. We'll put a cover on there, and then we'll convert all this to 2-inch. So that makes our lives easier in the future too. So that's kind of what we do in the long term. Back in the day, there was a lot of water here. Like, I believe back in the day, there was like at least 30 horse in here or something big anyway. But over the years, the water level has always dropped. Or not water level, the water level is kind of the same in the beginning of the year, but the amount of water has stopped, I guess, essentially. But you can still find water if you just poke a few more holes or drill new wells, essentially. But you can find more water, but then you have to have a lot of wells, and it gets expensive. So sometimes it's just not worth it to drill too many wells, even though water could be found. It's just not worth it for how much it costs, for how much water you get out of it. Some fields need it, but not all. To clarify, yes, obviously the water level has dropped over like the past many years. Like every year, obviously it drops a little bit, but the level is never as significant as the amount of water that you're actually able to use. So that's why in some areas the aquifer down there kind of, this is obviously not during watering season, this is throughout the winter when we're not using the water. The water level will always usually come back up to where it normally sits, but then whenever we start watering, it empties out pretty quickly. But then throughout the winter, obviously it kind of fills back up. But over the years, man, like, I don't know, since they first started actually using the water way back in the day, who knows how many years ago it was, but water level just, it goes away after a while. And yeah, that's kind of a thing to worry about in the future. Hopefully we'll have water in the future. You never know what'll happen. Maybe there'll be an earthquake one day and then all of our water will come back somehow. I don't know, you never know what happens. But you could talk about water and aquifers, you could talk about that all day long. Like that's a whole other genre of conversations that like never ends. But yeah, this is just what we do. We run all of our wells around. We've been keeping up with it pretty good, and the way we've been doing it, we've been fixing very little wells. Past years we've fixed quite a few, but I feel like this year we haven't even fixed that many wells like we normally would. But I like it. I would rather check up on wells every single week than fix 5 wells every single week. I much rather prefer the other way around. But I think this is it for me for today. we'll see. I'm gonna head back to the shop, drop off the folder, maybe see if I can find myself something else to do, but I guess we'll see what the rest of the day brings. It is 5 o'clock already, so might have to just call it an early day for vacation tomorrow. Yeah. I don't know, we'll see what I'll do. Maybe I'll even go home and do some housework. Who knows? One last thing that we're going to do today is just finish putting this together. This diesel tank on this tractor had a little bit of a leak, so we took the diesel tank off, brought it to a shop, they welded it for us, now we put it all back together. The only thing left is just the hood, and this tractor should be back up and running. Kind of weird that there was just a random little leak. It wasn't major, but it was enough to always get the floor dirty and everything, but just the hood left and this tractor is ready to go again. That was just a little side project that we were doing, fixing up that tractor a little bit. It should be probably in front of the peanut basket again this year. We might get that 6,000 in front of the peanut basket, but honestly I think this tractor might be in front of it again. So it's essentially now ready for harvest season. I will be going on vacation now for tomorrow and a couple of days after that, so when we come back, then we might start working on the peanut combines, and then we're probably just gonna make one cotton stripper ready. We might get both of them ready just in case, but I think with the amount of cotton that there are this year, it's not as much as last year because of how hot and dry it has been, that we might only just get one ready. That way put a little less hours on the second machine. So once we come back, it's definitely time to get harvest equipment ready because it is getting pretty close here. Usually towards the end of September, that's when we start digging peanuts, and we're about a month out, so we're getting pretty close. But as always, I do appreciate y'all for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.